Hello, I am the cartoonist M. Rashid. I see one of the 4chan guys is talking about the origin of the term cracker and attributing it to Tyreek. Ignore, trash all of that. Trash it. The origin of the term cracker comes from wealthy European business people, investors, and land developers who needed bodies to tame North America. And in the early days of the transatlantic movement, before the slave trade proper, in the early North American explorer days, the very early colonies, they were bringing the poor whites over as indentured servants and feeding them a mush made from cracked corn. And it was the rich European businessmen, merchants, who were calling the poor whites cracker. That's where the term came from a mush made from cracked corn. That's all they were feeding them, that and water. So they probably had, after the voyage, and then what they got there, and scurvy. It probably had all kinds of stuff going on. That was literally all they were eating. A mush that had some kind of oil or grease in it. And that's it. That's what you're eating. That's where the term cracker comes from. That's it. Discard the rest, please. Thanks. Anyway, today's cartoon, and I did about 4 today. So this first of the 4 was inspired by a tweet I saw from some lady. She said, this was a retweet from somebody else. I don't know this person. But she said, I am curious how white women still think that they ain't a part of this shit, she said. And I was trying to find if I had already did a cartoon talking about them putting the word sex into the what would become the 1964 Civil Rights Act. When the bill was still making its rounds, they put sex in it with the intention of thinking that putting that in there would be too much and it would kill it. But they passed it anyway. So I was trying to find if I had already done a cartoon about that. Couldn't think of nothing off the top of my head. But considering what happened with that bill and how the Civil Rights Act of 64 functions in the modern day, especially, instead of just talking about the feminism thing, I decided to do this is what they did to that bill. This is what, remember I was telling you about what affirmative action actually was? Like, it was a half-assed, watered-down, poor substitute nonsense for my reparations, that it ended up being so weakened for me and broadened so that other people can take advantage of it. What I need is my specificity. You gave white people unlimited money and land and gave them an economic floor and gave me nothing. Every time I was supposed to get something, it would end up being less than and watered down, and they got it free. I would have to pay some kind of fee for it. It was always a special black person rule attached to mine. And by the time the Civil Rights Act of 64 came around, you started avoiding specificity for me altogether. For example, I.W. Wells and those kind of black leaders from the early 20th century were actively fighting for an anti-lynching bill that you were avoiding. I still haven't got my anti-lynching bill, for example. Now, the Asians, in an hour got their anti-Asian hate bill. Like while we watched it, like from beginning to end, clunk, and then they had it. I've been trying to get my trash for 100 years, at least. So I never get my specificity. Despite all the nonsense, willful BS, ignorance talk from my ideological foe who's saying, oh yeah, reparations, we already paid for your reparations with all the welfare state and all that dumb shit you always talk. I haven't gotten anything. Welfare is for literally every single poor American. It's not for me. It's for everybody. And then when you look at the books, all the poor whites have EBT cards and etc. It's clearly not specificity for me, but you keep talking nonsense because you're full of nonsense. Anyway, the Civil Rights Bill of 64, they tried to kill it by putting sex into it. They it would be so over the top and ridiculous that they would be like, just throw this nonsense away. But they said, let it ride, do it. And then instead of being specific for me, it was so broad that every single protected class that it does list, white people can sign up for it. So you're making yourself multiple protected classes while you're the dominant political identity in the country. You already get literally everything the country has to offer, you get, and you're pretending to be all these protected classes. Because you're a grifting piece of crap. That's why. It's not about race, it's about culture. Your culture is a thieving, grifting one. And you're great at it. Congratulations for being a thieving piece of crap. Anyway, so I don't get my specificity. You get to pretend to be a protected class and be the dominant political identity and put yourself in gatekeeper mode so you get to decide who gets to sign up and who gets their applications approved. So you've been continuously pushing me out. When I finally get somebody to like work their way to the courts to say like black people deserve this, like this has been withheld for them for all this time, and then somebody actually gets something specific for me pushed in, then all these grifting whites will show up and hey, the Civil Rights Act of 64 says race, people can't do anything by race, so if they get this, I should get this because I'm also a race. Like with those black farmers a couple of weeks ago. So that's the origin of this cartoon. Oof. Peace.